Welcome to Champagne Chats, discussions from the green room when we talk all things about the events industry. I'm Kate Woolley, also known as DJ Wildflower, and it's absolutely fabulous to be with you today. Next up is a very well-known Perth creative director, two-time WAPA graduate, radio and TV presenter, musician and event industry advocate. Let's get started. Joining me today is a very special guest who has left an indelible mark on the Perth events industry. Over the past 15 years, he's become a leading spokesperson and advocate. More publicly, he's a very prominent voice on Perth's top-rated radio station, 94.5, and leads major theatre productions such as We Will Rock You, as well as hosting and presenting in some of WA's biggest events. He's possibly best well known for fronting Perth's top cover band, Proof, and somehow made time for me today. Thank you so much for joining me, Blake Williams.
Thank you, Kate. That sounds exhausting, to be honest. That's just way too many things on a bio.
This is the Cliff Notes. This could be a lot longer. But look, I just wanted to give you the introduction for anyone who isn't lucky enough to know who you are, because you have an incredible CV and you have done lots of things all at a very, very high level.
Well, thank you. It's I think like everyone who works in this industry, you just do so many different things. And I think we're really lucky that we can try things, and if they work, they work, and if they don't work and you never do them again. Or sometimes they work well enough that you continue all of those things, and then down the track, 15, 20 years later, they all kind of pop up to fruition. So thank you for inviting me. This is exciting. We've got actual champagne. This is
actual champagne chat. We don't be scrimping around here.
No, not at all. We normally have SSB through our soda stream at home. So this is quite an upgrade.
Only the best for you. And as you're very well aware, on my rider is a champagne no prosecco.
Yeah, I did read that. You're the only artist we've ever had on Williams Creative that went, this is the champagne I want,
yes,
and this is the champagne I'm going to get.
Yes.
I love that.
And also what I don't want.
Yeah. No, listen, you got to ask for the stars and you'll get the moon, right?
Absolutely. And look, not naming names, but the good clients deliver.
Yeah, I wonder if we could grade clients in another podcast, an offline podcast of what actually from the writer ends up in the green room.
Absolutely.
That would be a whole other kind of chat.
So for those that don't know, the purpose of a writer is actually really for technical information. So
sure.
Provide information to the clients, they know what to include. And then, look, I just put that in there and I'm chancing it, but I'm not really expecting it. But one of the most famous writers, I'm not sure if you've seen it before, is the Foo Fighters.
Okay, keep going.
So the Foo Fighters writer, it's actually a colouring in book.
Okay.
And they have lots of information in there, including how to make ice. And they expect everything to be followed, because the purpose is if you can follow this writer, colouring in book, that you can actually deliver on the technical requirements.
And that's the famous blue M&Ms story as well. If they're blue M&Ms in the room, then they've read every single thing on the writer. And it's actually, we had a client just the other day, and because I'm so used to our writer never being read.
Yes.
Ever.
Yes.
Like even getting to the gig and them going, have you got a writer?
Yes.
I said, yes, I've sent it through 4 times.
Yeah.
But we finally got to this gig and this client said, I couldn't find you a green room with a mirror. I hope that's okay. And I thought, in 17 years, no one has ever read that far. That's on page 5. And they were like, I can't do it. I said, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But thank you. I appreciate you trying.
Yeah. But then, my next step is, well, they don't all have mirrors. You can bring a mirror in. But this is the troubleshooting that you go through.
Yeah, that's right.
As the client, and then also the performer being the person without a mirror.
Well, it's funny that we mentioned the writer thing, because now running a company that, we're sending writers out daily. And it's funny, I feel like there should be a class when people finish uni or whatever the case is on how to write a writer, like what's actually required. Like, please don't draw your band in stick figures and give me a 3D version of what you want. Like, just give me input list and a top-down view, and that's all we need. But I've had the most hilarious writers that I've gone, this is funny, but also I can't send this on to a TV network, where people have gone, they've just cut out their favourite cartoon characters and they've put that on their writer, or they've just made stuff up, which doesn't help anybody.
Yeah. This is actually a really good insight. Just to take a step back. So you have just started relatively recently Williams Creative Co. with your beautiful wife, and you are now really just leading the charge with providing fantastic entertainment options and solutions for a variety of different clients. Can you give us a bit of a rundown of what that looks like?
Absolutely. Well, thank you. So Williams Creative Co. Started about a year ago, so last August or so. I've been doing it really for many years, but we officially put a line in the sand and went, as of now, we are Williams Creative Company. And so that is a business that really runs all of my stuff, so all of my events, my MC stuff, theatre shows, whatever the case is. But we also manage events for a bunch of other artists, so 55 or so other acts that we're now working for. So for corporate events or outdoor concerts or whatever the case may be, a whole range of different things, curated performances, the list kind of goes on. But it's a daily struggle of attention to detail. So I've realised simply the amount of work that there is in making sure that tech writers are sent and that people know load-in times and all insurances are crossed off. And if we're doing a TV show, that the APRA credits are all correct and lawyers have gone through all of this. There's simply so much. And it's funny, last year we did maybe 240 events. That's what we worked on. This financial year, it's going to be like 400 or so. And I think the fact that we're working on 60 or 70 events at any one time, it makes your mind go a little bit crazy. But I think we've become much better now at looking at processes and how things are working and making sure that if an artist sends the writer, it has gone to the client and making sure that everything is ticked off. So when people get to a gig, everything that is supposed to be there is there.
Yeah. And that process is something that I truly appreciate working with you as a performer. You are so diligent with actually providing information ahead of an event and it makes all the difference. But I really believe that would have come from your years working as a performer yourself, working with Proof.
I think that's the thing. Yeah, and that's sort of where a lot of this information came from. The amount of times we would rock up to gigs that have been booked, by a client or by an agency or whatever the case is, and you would go, this is so different to what I was told, and then you need to figure out how to make that gig work. And it's really, at that point, it's not your job to figure out how to do all of this. All of that should have been done before. And the amount of times that it happened, that you develop these skills and you know what you're talking about. You go, well, that size room needs that sort of PA and that's going to cost this.
Yeah.
And we're not sending bands out to rock up with a tiny PA in a massive room because the client doesn't have the budget to pay for it.
Yeah.
It's a matter of, is that appropriate for the gig?
Yeah.
And so, it absolutely came out of one too many times just going to an event and going, what do we do now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that frustration is not just a matter of being, having the moral high horse. You have a whole band that you're responsible for performing. You have an audience that you want to perform for. I know many occasions it's not a matter, well, maybe that hasn't been paid for, but you just have to bring the right equipment and perform the show because ultimately you're a performer. They got to remember what your experience
That's the thing.
is.
At the end of the day, an audience has absolutely no idea about writers. They don't care about anything about that.
They don't know about the budget.
They don't know about the
that it
budget.
paid for the good lights.
That's right. Exactly. You need to think about it from a client perspective, from an audience perspective and go, we still need to deliver and we still need to give a good show. So how do we make that work at the 11th hour? And I just don't want people to have to stress. I mean, we've literally rocked up to gigs and walked into a ballroom and gone, there's no PA or lighting here. And I've called an agent and gone, what's happening? And they go, oh, yeah, weren't you doing that? I said, well, it says in the contract that you are, so I'm assuming that you are.
Yeah.
And then I've then called companies to come in whilst entrees are being served and set up PAs just to get through a gig. I know. It gives me anxiety thinking about it. And you go, also that, we're not getting this gig again. Like the client's not going to be happy and you're just dealing with the situation that you've been left in.
Yeah. So a lot of this time is when we're in that situation, you're trying to preempt something because we've been in that situation, having been around the block a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. And it's not a client's fault. Like they're not technical directors. They don't know what should go into a certain room. And certainly a big part of our job is explaining to clients, okay, this is the dream. That's brilliant. There's a few different ways to facilitate that. I recommend doing this and getting this much time for this and all of that sort of stuff. So with a lot of our clients, we end up becoming a bit of a entertainment technical mentor and explaining and making it work for them because a client has a million things to think about with an event. The entertainment is often something that is left to the last minute or people simply don't know enough about it, and why would they? Absolutely. No one's going to know these things.
Very much underestimated, and so part of it is delivering on the performance, but there's a real lot of education that goes ahead to make sure that they understand they have all the elements and go, well, I've booked you. I didn't know I had to pay for speakers, a table, DJ equipment, or a band, or this, that, the next thing. And they're like, all of a sudden, my budget is blown out.
Yeah.
And you're just in that situation where you're trying to make the best for the client.
That's right. And you want clients to be happy.
You do.
You want a great experience for them. I think that's the thing. Like we want from an inquiry to the completion of the gig for them to know that they've been respected. We've got the vision for them. We've facilitated that, and we've made it stress-free. Like I think that's the thing. I really try and take care of all of that and just deliver on what they want, and so they don't have to bog themselves down with technical information and things like that.
All that detail. And that's the best thing, is you can take the best of everything that you've learned and put it into your business.
Yeah.
And I think you've done a fantastic job.
Thank you.
And
I
it's
appreciate
really
it.
exciting to see where it grows.
Yeah.
Bringing a little bit of personal aspect into it. You had some pictures that you put up on the weekend. You had a lovely little family shoot with a beautiful wife. And who knew you were an amazing photographer?
Well,
is this something that you're going to do professionally? Because they were unreal.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, I run the business with Lisa, my wife. We're 3.5 weeks away from having our first baby. But it's funny because when I left school, photography is what I did. I went to uni and studied photography.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So before Whopper, before
maybe
music.
Maybe it was buried somewhere in the long list.
That wasn't in the long bio.
Wow.
So I finished high school and I really wanted to be a filmmaker. That was where my passion was.
Fantastic.
And I went to the Screen Academy and studied there for a few years and really got into photography, storyboarding, doing films and doing we're talking uni films. So I don't have any of them now, but I would love to go back and watch them because I have no doubt that they're terrible. But I love watching uni films because you see these moments of creative spark and go, that's a great idea. That's lacked the skill to really develop it, and that's what you're there to study.
Yep.
But I loved it, and photography was I had a really big part in it, and then did the whole music thing, and career went a completely different direction.
So
but
no
I still
doubt
love
you're a
it.
very creative person, but for me, I would have expected that you would have gone straight out the gate in music because you're such a great performer. That came after the fact.
Yeah, it sort of did. I did music at high school, so I did music and drama, and it was very much every lunchtime I would go to the music rooms and write songs and discover that there were more than 3 chords on a piano and how to play them. And when my teacher showed me an chord inversion, it blew my mind. It's this whole I think that's what's so lovely about studying something like music or photography, where you go, there's a whole world I don't understand, and I'm now starting this journey in there.
Yeah.
And I love that moment of knowing, wonder what's just around the corner, So music was definitely what I did at high school, and Guys and Dolls and Importance of Being Earnest and all the shows that we did. And then, I was working in bands when I was studying film, but then when you get into Whopper, it's this is all you can do now because you're there.
That's
24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And I was there for 5 years or something like that.
So what was your first Whopper qualification?
So I didn't finish it. So I was a few years in, maybe 3 years into film. I did the degree that you do when you don't know what to do, which is the communications degree.
Thank you very much.
You might have finished your degree.
Yeah. It ended up being in public relations, which I don't work in. So
I know this is the thing. You go, I kind of want to do this, and I don't even know what really I
I've got
learned.
a certificate somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, it's somewhere in the back of the house. But I only got a couple of years in, 2.5 years in, and then audition. I thought, I'll audition. I'll see what happens. And then got into that, and then that was that's what I'll do now, and that's where all of the event stuff connected to. But it all really started from music, yeah.
Fantastic. And as a performer yourself, you have been fronting Proof for how many years now?
Yeah, well, Proof grew out of Whopper in 2006 or something like that. So it's basically been going for 18 years.
It's your whole post-school experience.
Yeah, pretty much.
Is with
those guys.
This journey, this relationship.
And it's crazy.
It's going to be one of the most important relationships in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And so many things have grown out of that. I mean, Rick Webster and Sean Argyle have been in the band for 18 years with me. And I think being in a band, it's really important to have great people around you. I mean, you are a team, you jump on stage as a group, and it's you versus audience for a while, and you need to have each other's backs, and it's really important. And I think one of my favorite relationships are band relationships. But 18 years. In fact, we're planning an 18th birthday party for later this year. We have a party every year.
Yeah.
We celebrate a lot in the band. I love celebrating things. But yes, 18 years this year, and grew out of uni. We started, I think back to the gigs we used to do, and this is how I kind of got into events really. We used to do every Friday night in Bunbury, before the freeway, which means it was a 3-hour journey down there and a 3-hour journey back. And we used to play 9 till 1:30, and we'd finish at 1:30 in the morning, leave at 2, get back to Perth at 5:30. Everyone in my household will be leaving to go to work as we were arriving back, and we used to do it for $150. It was a tough slog. And then one day we did this corporate event and we were paid 3 times as much. We finished at 11. We had dinner, we had drinks, and we went, hey, what is all this about? And that was a moment, a light bulb moment of let's pause, let's check out what this event life is all about.
The event
because
life,
it was getting hard.
Look, I'm going to be honest, I had a similar trajectory, not only because my music is sort of lend itself more to daytime anyway. I've never really been like a full-on club DJ. But when I was starting off in music and starting, I felt like the only way you could be a real DJ is if you're a club DJ and you're going out there and playing in the scene. A lot of the times I was the only female at night, and you're kind of there between like 10 and 2 a.m. and you have to kind of vie your time and pay your dues for like a 1 hour spot for like $100.
Yeah.
And
it's a tough slog.
It was a really tough slog. And some people really, at the same time that I was starting out, I really admired their ability to want to kind of make that work. It's like, I don't really want to do it that bad.
Yeah.
But I just want to perform and play music. And then when I realized that it was something that I could do during the day, because I want to be around people.
Sure.
It's about connecting and communicating with people.
Yeah. Yep.
And the hours need to be a little bit more sociable for me. So
I think that's completely reasonable as well. It's a difficult thing, and you end up working these crazy hours.
Yeah.
But it's all. I think working in music and working for those gigs, especially at the start, you learn simply so much about the craft and getting yourself out of really difficult situations. I mean, off stage as well as on.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, we there was one night in Bunbury where, there's a packed dance floor. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. A fight breaks out because it's also Bunbury. Yeah. And there's this kind of melee going on the dance floor. And we go, what do we do now? Like, what do we do? Because we kind of stop playing and go, how do we help whatever's happening and try and work out what's going on? And you only figure out how to do those things when you're in that situation doing it. And not that there's too many punch-ups at corporate events, but still, if something were to happen, you've kind of gone through it. And just how to read a crowd, how to get out of a song if it's not working, or just leave it at the chorus, let's have a hand signal for that. Like you learn so much in those moments where the risk is really low as well.
Yes.
Like if we were to screw up a song massively, I guarantee no one will care.
No, those practice environments are really important. One of my first residencies was at a hotel lobby, and hardly anyone was there. It was brilliant because I got to practice to the staff, and they were vibing or not vibing, and I got free parking and a meal.
Yeah. It's like a paid rehearsal sometimes.
Yeah. So I always say to anyone who's starting out, like those residencies that we can just put in the hours, because hours in front of people are very different for hours jamming as a band or as a DJ at home. You really need to be in front of people, because until you have that moment, you don't really know.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting working in corporate events now, because I guess even when we sort of came through early thousands, mid-thousands, there was definitely an understanding that you needed to go out and do this and figure it out and then bring that skill set back and have something new to offer a whole new market, which was corporate events. And there is definitely a difference in that now, where a lot of people want to go straight from studying straight into these really nice gigs, and that's a great dream and aspiration, but you still need to be able to deliver on stage.
Yeah.
And I wonder how they're going to go in a couple of seasons when you've sort of used all of your tricks and you need a little bit more of the vocab. But it's an interesting thing. It's a different change in the industry at the moment.
Yeah. Look, there's definitely ways to fast track getting the bookings, but there's nothing that will fast track that experience.
Yeah, that's right. And keeping the bookings.
And those relationships. Like you can, when you're in there, you can, drop your fee or do whatever you can to get that booking. But it's about doing a good job and delivering. And like part of what I love watching when I see you guys perform is proof. Being a DJ, it's much easier for me to change up my set list. As a band, I've always found it really interesting, your ability to kind of move through things. I know you have a set list where songs aren't working. Sometimes you watch a band that they're stuck, they can't do it, and you'll be able to move through. You can communicate with your band, and that's such.
It's a bit of a different way of doing it, and it's certainly. I mean, we found that from watching DJs. To be honest, we go, well, like, why wouldn't we try and do that as well?
Just move on, just rather than like, well, this is the song, I have to play it full, and
we learned that by watching bands at pubs, and they would play a song that would kill the dance floor, and they go, well, we've still got 4.5 minutes of it, so get ready. And by that time, there's no one left in the pub, and you've really screwed the night. And so we were like, well. And Proof is do it a little bit differently. So there's be like a master universe of maybe 100 songs, something like that. We'll have a rough idea for the start of the night. We'll play 2 or 3 songs that'll gauge reaction. And then based on who's dancing and what's working, we'll then continue and go, well, 80s is working, but that groove's not working. So what connects to that? Yeah. And every single song, we try to connect to the next song. There are hand signals for every song, which gets incredibly confusing. And there have been absolute train wrecks because of it. And we've had to go.
I thought it was a bunny, and it was supposed to be I don't know.
The amount of times, well, not the amount of times, but we've certainly had to get ourselves out of situations where we've all played a different song because of the similar hand signal. It's really important that if you play something and it's starting to clear a dance floor, you have to get
to
out.
move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really, it's one of the things I really love. If we're lucky enough, sometimes we get booked on the same night and we'll be alternating and get to play, and other times I just get to watch you, and that's also a lot of fun.
But there's also like a great connection with band and DJ, and like we're trying to do that a lot more at Williams Creative, where DJ finishes a set, and as that set is finishing, the band is starting of the same song, and so it's this seamless connection between. And then as the band finishes, the DJ comes in with something of the same tempo, and clients love it because it does not stop the dance floor at all. There's none of this, we'll be back soon, silence for 15 seconds and it just kills the vibe. And so there's lots of little tweaks and things that you can do with the band and DJ combo, which I think work really well.
It's so important because it used to be kind of you do the band or the DJ. The band, they need to have breaks, right? So it's not the same as a DJ who can play for 4 or 5 hours back to back, maybe 45-minute sets, and then you have short breaks. But if you don't consider that music in between, that is really painful time. 15 minutes between a band can be a killer if you don't have something else lined up.
100%.
And so that DJ segue is really important.
Really
Even if it's only
important.
for just a couple minutes, just to kind of keep the energy up.
And to be honest, it's a pet peeve of mine when we have a corporate event and I think sometimes that the hardest gig you'll ever do as a musician is working in a party band at a corporate gig for 3 hours on stage, because you are essentially in a room where no one is there to see the music.
Yeah.
Everything is finished by 8:30, but you have to play till 12, and you need to keep 500 people connected who don't know each other on a dance floor for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And the only barometer of is this gig going well is how many people are dancing.
Yep.
And if you've got the whole dance floor going, then hey, you're a good band and you're doing a good job. It's a very difficult job. And then you get to these points where you finish a set where you agree, okay, background music will play. As soon as we finish, no worries, we finish, it goes silent. And I see people stand up and walk out the door and they're gone forever, and you come back to the next set and the room's 30% full. And it just happens so constantly. Yeah. So we try and avoid that at all costs by having a DJ with us. Like, do it as a combo.
Yeah.
Great entertainment. You've got the whole back of the night sorted.
Yeah. One of the other things that you guys are doing as Williams is, I'm doing a big plug because I really admire what you're doing. This wasn't what it was, but it's one of the things that I've noticed particularly about, we were talking about West Australian music and there just being this incredible talented pool. And I love the fact that you're actually now promoting more original artists.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
so championing local music. And
100%. I think as West Australians, we have just the most incredible list of amazing artists that have been big in WA, but also nationally and taking it internationally too. And whether it's our isolation or a whole bunch of different factors, documentaries have been made about this process. Is there something in the water? What is it about WA that produces these really unique artists? And we now have established the business at a point where we know a lot of corporate clients, we work with a lot of corporate clients. It just doesn't seem to make sense to me that we wouldn't have a West Australian of the Year awards or a 40 under 40 awards or whatever, something that celebrates WA and not back that up with West Australian music. And so a big push now is to get incredible songwriters to do a dinner set through a WA-based event, a Tourism WA event, whatever it might be.
It's not that crazy.
It's not crazy.
But it's you're just not seeing it so often. So I'm so glad that you're championing that because
it's just something a little bit different. And once a client sees it and they go, oh, this actually works really well.
Yeah.
It'll be the start of something beautiful. And I love the fact that, West Australians are writing songs about being from WA.
Yeah.
And that's what you're hearing on stage. It's a whole different level of connection to music. Instead of us getting up there and playing Valerie for 400,000th time, just put something a little bit different up there and it'll work.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can play that later on.
Yeah, there's always time for Valerie.
There's always time. But yeah, it's a really important aspect. Last night I went to a speakers night for the first time with the Professional Speakers Association chapter in Perth, and they had a futurist called Gihan Pereira. And the reason why I'm bringing him up is because he's from Perth and he was talking about Perth-centric kind of facts and information. In terms of like the G7 and all the power players in the world, where all the power is sitting kind of centrally really in Asia is all in the Perth time zone.
Right.
So on the east coast of Australia, which Sydney, Melbourne, everyone kind of thinks is the centre of Australia, Perth is actually the centre of the universe.
Yep.
And as we're all sitting there in the audience, we're like, yay!
Yes, we are. We knew this.
It made us feel very important, but it was really interesting to me because, you go to Singapore, same time zone, all of this. I wonder if that's going to be something that is going to help continue to grow Perth as a market where people look to us as a resource.
And absolutely we can do that. And there have been programs that have been set up in the last few years of artist exchange programs, essentially, where WA band will go to Singapore band comes to WA,
Great.
and shows are lined up around that process.
I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. It works incredibly well, but it's funny, it's almost easier to tour a WA band to Southeast Asia
Oh my God.
than it is to the east coast of Australia.
It really
it's
is.
prohibitively expensive.
And so it's not happening. So you have Asia tours. You had Coldplay doing an Asia tour in Perth, and then they'll do, basically a Pacific tour, and they do the East Coast. But it makes sense why, and you can probably give me a little bit more insight into that, but touring Australian tours and then WA being left off the tour is pretty frustrating. But actually from a logistics point of view, it's so separate.
It's almost, it's essentially treating both ends of Australia as the start and end point of different tours.
Yes.
Because we're closer to so many other countries than we are to the East Coast. And so a lot of people will, if they could do it perfectly, they would start in Perth or end in Perth and then do a whole other tour that ended in the East Coast. But you can't do that logistically. So you end up doing an East Coast tour of Australia and simply not coming to WA. To get, if you look something like an Adele show, like a Pink show, a big touring show, the amount of semi-trailers that need to travel from the East Coast to WA, it's just simply, it can't happen in the time frame that is required to make a tour work. So it's a really difficult one, but there are opportunities in WA. And if you go back to the great Australian bands like Cold Chisel, these ones that they simply toured nonstop, constantly, and grew this legion of fans by going out regionally, that's still the way to do it. Like YouTube and all of the stuff is streaming is great. That's absolutely great. There's a part for that. But going out to towns and doing a WA tour that goes Exmouth, Geraldton, Joondalup, Perth, Mandurah, Bunbury, all the way down to Esperance or something, and doing 7 dates it's very doable. Yeah. And then, do the other towns on the way back up.
Yeah.
Like you can really make it work. It just takes time, takes logistics, takes planning, takes grants.
It does. But there is a real appetite out there because we love live music. There's I live quite close to Fremantle, and there's just so many great live music spots that continue to pop up all throughout the week. And it's just so nice to see this energy being poured back into this love and desire of live music again.
100%. And, as the world changes and we have things like artificial intelligence when it comes to creating music and all of this stuff, and everyone kind of goes, well, what's the future of a musician going to be if, do we need musicians if a program can write a song? And nothing will ever change the live experience of being in a room and hearing something that is spine-tingling and having a connection to the people around you. That simply cannot change because it's human existence. It's the reason that we exist at all, human connection, and it will always be there. And in the regions especially, because they are so starved for entertainment, you could send the most bizarre shows regionally and they will sell pretty well. It's definitely a thing.
Yeah.
And I think people discount the regional shows. And there are grants available from WAM and through different places to get people specifically heading to the regions because it's a great fan base. You'll sell some records as well. And the next time you go, you might have 100 this time, there's 120, 150, then suddenly you're at 500 in a couple of tours' time. So sometimes it's just a lot of hard work.
Yeah, but it's really good advice as well, just to kind of don't discount that. But I found it really interesting what you said about AI because it's a conversation that keeps continuing to come up. That was the topic of the speaker last night, was basically in sense about future and AI and how that sort of looks. But it feels like the area of face-to-face communication, face-to-face performance will end up being more of the specialty because a lot of things that we do will be sort of, I'm sure even scripts will just be written.
Yeah.
But someone still has to develop the skills to perform and speak and be up there.
Yeah.
That seems to be the skill now, not necessarily the as opposed, you still have to train as a musician, you still have to deliver the information. So you can't fast track that with AI.
No, you can't. And I think that as much as if you go to Broadway and you watch a play on Broadway or a musical on Broadway, there is not any part of that. Maybe some of the programming, sure, for cue tracks and things like that could be managed possibly by AI, but everything on there is created and it's specifically made. And that all of those skills, I can't imagine them ever going away. Maybe I just don't want it ever to, so that's why I'm thinking, but I
feel the same. I don't want to think it that way. No.
But it's funny. I had a really interesting discussion with a friend of mine the other day. We were saying AI writing a song if AI is based on all of the information ever gathered by humans, does that not mean that song is based on the emotions of every person that's ever written a song? And it's an interesting argument because, it's there to extract information and to synthesize it and make something new, but the actual sitting down and putting emotion into words and turning them into melody, and having a real human connection, I still think that that's a skill that will be around forever. It's the oldest skill in human existence. It can't go anywhere.
It's the essence of humanity. So no, I would absolutely agree with you. And I think also what I enjoy sometimes is like watching DJs and go and see live DJs. I enjoy the mistakes.
Sure.
Because you know that they're playing live.
100%.
Sometimes you see mixes and you know for a fact some of the big DJs, they do pre-recorded sets. That's very well known.
Yeah.
And, some of the old dog DJs that were like, you've been playing for a million years and they still make mistakes.
Yeah.
Now, it's joyful to me hearing them make a mistake because they correct it very quickly and it's like a nanosecond.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, they're fallible, this incredible person. Like,
But I think everyone loves that.
Yeah.
Not to see a mistake. Even when in the band someone makes a mistake, it's that kind of, I heard that.
Yeah.
The nod of, that was that was a bit interesting there.
Especially with you guys being together for so long, like you go, oh.
And when someone is at the back going, I'm thinking about the break, or their mind wanders a little bit and something goes, well, where are we going with this right now? But, it's all live, it's all real. And, I love playing in a band and I love what live music can do.
Because it's never the same.
It's never the same. No, and I think that's what audiences love as well, and especially that spontaneity of making the set list as you go.
Yeah.
Things will sometimes follow a similar path, but it'll always be a little bit different. Yeah. And sometimes you'll throw combinations of songs and go, as we're doing it live, and think, I don't know if this is going to work, but I guess we'll find out in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It either does or it doesn't.
Yeah, which is really, that's how I sort of DJ a lot of the time. They go, what are you going to play? And I'm like, I don't know. We'll see. We'll read the room. That's part of the skill. So you doing it as a band is, definitely very.
It is funny though, but we now have a communication system. So Sean on keyboards will call a song and it will go straight to like an in-ear piece. So we all have the exact same information, and then we facilitate it. Because the days of the hand signals and getting lost and everyone starting a different song,
as the track list evolves, I mean, there's only so many letters in the alphabet.
That's right. There's only so many hand signals you can create. Yeah.
You're going to continue working with Proof, and you have a great relationship there. And Williams is doing very well as you continue to evolve everything that you're working with locally. Is there much room in the future for you to look at any of the theatre productions that you've been doing?
Yeah, theatre is where it all began at high school. Kind of going, it sort of seemed so impossible at school. Going, I don't know how you would learn these songs and how you do them every night, and then you've also got
the
lines
words as well.
Yeah,
like
that's
learning
right.
all the script,
the blocking, everything associated, the character stuff, the development. It just seemed like this mountain that was impossible to climb. And it was really funny because I saw a touring production of We Will Rock You in 2007, something like that, at Crown. And I remember thinking that would be amazing. And at this point, I really wasn't doing anything. And then fast forward, 10, 12 years or something, I had the exact same role on the exact same stage, doing the show 8 days a week. Oh. And it was a bit of a pinch me kind of moment.
Absolutely, full circle.
Yeah, 100%. And I love theatre. It is just so all consuming. And, I was playing Galileo, which is the lead in that. And it's like I would wake up, I would go to the gym, I would vocal warm up, I would go to the show, I would come home, I would sleep, and it was rinse and repeat for 45 days at a time. It was so grueling.
Look, and I think any theatre production is grueling. This is based on the music from Queen.
Yeah, plus all of the crazy high songs.
Yeah, this is the Freddie Mercury who is, I don't know who your rock idol is, but, to me, Freddie Mercury is the number one of all time, undisputed.
Sure, absolutely, 100%. And
vocally as well, like you just... How was that as a daunting task to take on?
And that's actually the word for it. It was completely daunting. Like I got the role by auditioning, and the song I sang, which was Hammer to Fall, is probably the easiest song to sing in the show, which Galileo also does. And then I realised that I was going to have to do Bohemian Rhapsody and We're the Champions and I Want to Break Free and all of these, and my voice goes high, but it doesn't go Freddie Mercury high.
Yeah. And
there was actually a moment when we were just before rehearsals and I was trying to get this stuff down. I had a massive freak out and I said to my wife, I physically can't do this. I don't know what I've got myself into and I don't know how to get out of this now. And the only way I got out of it is by literally locking myself in the studio for 3 months. Wow. And just doing it 7-8 hours a day until my voice was hoarse. And I would watch every video, get every singing lesson, go every OT that I could to get my voice to a point. And then we got to the show and I did it, and we did it multiple times.
You nailed it. It was fantastic.
Thank you. But it was a real lesson for me to go, I can do more than what I think I can do, and actually then get to a point where I was so comfortable with the show, I could just enjoy the show.
Yes.
I didn't have to
put the work
out.
in to actually get to the space where you can actually just enjoy it.
100%. And that's I'd never really been in that position before, but I could look around and go, I feel comfortable. I know what I'm doing. It's all going to be okay.
What a beautiful experience.
Yeah, it was.
And just having the opportunity to do something again and again and again in a finesse, where in the event space we work in, generally it's a different client, different run sheet, different performance. So you don't necessarily get to go back and revisit things.
No.
If something happens on a night, I mean, more often than not, I'll come back and think, I wish I could have done this differently, or in hindsight, I would have added this. You can actually do that.
Yeah, absolutely. You can. And that's the thing in a theatre show, when you're getting a show off the ground. And we had Ben Elton that came to the opening performances and, did a lovely speech and everything. But when that show was being developed in London with the London West End cast, there's script changes happening daily. And they go, that joke didn't quite land, so let's adapt this and let's change the arrangement of that slightly here. And you can really finesse it until you've got the show that you really want. And that becomes then the touring show. But like you say, in events, it's the absolute opposite. Like there's nothing continuous about it. And I think about this sometimes, like, you work really hard on an event. It's been a grueling one, maybe been working on it for 6 months, and you wake up the next morning and the first thought is, okay, what's today's event?
What's today?
Like it's completely different.
Yeah.
And it's hard. I think that's a really difficult thing about events, to actually stop and take heed and go and be in the moment and go, what a great job we all did tonight. Or how amazing was that particular moment, or whatever it might be.
Exactly.
We don't stop and actually enjoy, just be present.
Particularly when it's that silly season and the momentum is just kind of rolling forward.
It's crazy.
It's very important to be cognizant of those moments and go, previous me would have been so excited to build up to this, and present me is pretty bloody grateful to be able to have that as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's definitely something that I've had to really work on, which is to bring myself to that moment and go, force myself to be present in it.
Yeah.
And like take a visual snapshot, or just wait a few extra minutes, or sit in the car and think about the event, or and go, I want to remember this one day, because one day I'm not going to be doing these events.
So
and
true.
I want to think back and go, that was a great time.
Yeah.
And not just be clouded in stress and anxiety to get to the next thing.
Exactly. Thinking about your to-do list for Monday, actually to sit there and celebrate the moment.
100%.
As it stands, you really are an industry leader and support a lot of people, a lot of up-and-comers. Do you have any particular mentors that you work with or that you look up to that support you?
I think it's important to have people to talk to, and they don't necessarily need to be in this industry, I think.
I would agree.
Yeah. In fact, I think it's nice to have a perspective outside of the industry and go, well, this is how we would do it, or what have you thought about this? Because you get so stuck in, in this industry we do it like this, so there's no other way that it can conceivably be done, but it's simply not true.
It's a different perspective to look in on what you do.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to surround yourself with people who are great in whatever field they do, but also have mentors in the industry too. And in fact, I remember like Russell Wolfe, the late great Russell Wolfe, who was a radio presenter.
Yeah.
I used to meet with him every couple of months, and we would sit down and talk about emceeing. He's the greatest MC I've ever seen. He had this way of commanding a crowd with grace and humility, but also being forceful in a way that they would stop and listen. And I could never understand how he did it. I just could never figure it out.
I was lucky enough to see him a few times as well. He just some people just have that presence about them, and he walks on stage and you just listen.
Yeah, you just listen.
And laugh at anything he says.
Yeah, exactly. Super funny guy, great voice. Like I just loved him so much. And so I would ask him a million questions about, well, if you're in a situation, how would you do this? Or what would you say here? And how would you say this? And, just ask all these questions and just generally be inquisitive as to the answers. And he was so generous with his time as well. But definitely have people like that. It's important.
It is important. One of the themes you brought up a couple of times is being inquisitive and being curious. And I think that's something that as we, progress in our careers, you should never, ever lose that, because how are you going to grow? Because hopefully there's much more to continue as we go on to our future years, that how are you going to learn if you just kind of go, right, this is where I'm at and stay locked off?
I think in something like this within the music industry or, within events as well, really with anything, I don't think the learning ever finishes.
No.
And I think it's really important to keep examples of yourself. So when you feel like you haven't had a progression, you can listen back to things.
Yes.
Like I remember I recorded my very first radio shift on Mix 94.5 14 years ago. And every now and then when I think, I don't know, have I really developed? I will go back and listen to that. And oh my God, it's terrible. It's so bad.
Yeah.
But I also know that that's a massive progression from when I was at uni studying how to do radio. And I think you're always moving forward. You have to be, I think I generally have a pretty inquisitive nature with everything I do. And I very much understand that there's so much more to learn about all of this.
Yeah.
And surrounding myself with people who are so much better at things than me and learning off them as well. You know, musicians or presenters or technical directors or whatever the case may be, just going, there's always something to learn.
Yeah.
But I find that really exciting, not overwhelming, I think is the difference. Like I'm happy to learn about it.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to go down a rabbit hole for a couple of days and come back and go, all right, maybe I don't want to continue that or whatever the case may be. But I think it's important to be inquisitive.
I agree. It speaks to the level of energy that you have, because if you are excited about doing something, you'll find the room to do it. I think it's hard to keep pushing and slogging away if you're not happy with what you're doing ultimately. You've got to love what you do.
That's right. And you know, we chose these professions.
We did.
To better or worse.
Exactly.
And you know, there's a lot of joy that comes from working in events and a lot of satisfaction. But I think definitely the motivating factor is that it can always be better.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important part. Like, we did a good job, but imagine what it could be. And sometimes you nail it and you know you nail it and you go, that was so good.
It's a sweet spot because that's a seldom reached real pinnacle when you get to have that, and it's all come together because you have the ideas and the client and the vision and the room and the budget and the weather and this, that, and the next thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of elements that have to come together. You can get pretty close a lot of the time, but sometimes when you get that hole in one and you just know it's a good
it's so good.
Yeah. And you constantly strive for that experience again.
Absolutely.
Because you go, I want that feeling every day for the rest of my life. It's
you
addictive.
Want it. But also I think I know that it comes up so seldom that it's really special when it does happen.
Exactly.
And I don't, like, I aim for it, but I don't want to pretend that I've got it sometimes. Like I go, maybe we did do a really good job. Like I know, you'll know when you have.
Yeah.
Because you get that feeling. And I remember like the first year, so one of my goals over the last 15 years was to bring some live music back to TV broadcast. Like the old days when you'd have Basil's Footy Show, but there would be Slim Jim and the Fats playing live. Or
Hey, It's Saturday.
Hey, It's Saturday. Like all of those great shows that had live bands. And we simply do not have them anywhere anymore.
No, the format doesn't seem to exist, but you have done something.
But we brought it back. So there was a goal of bringing it back to Telethon on Channel 7. And 2 years ago, after many years of sort of getting the ball rolling, they wanted to book Proof as the house band for the broadcast. And it was the band live on air for 8 hours, so 4 hours and 4 hours. I was hosting part of the broadcast as well, plus we were backing all the artists that were flying over from the East Coast. The amount of work was insane how much work was involved in that. And
when
also,
you say backing, you're obviously performing with these artists.
Yeah, that's right. So
you have to learn all of their songs, rehearse with all of these bands,
yep,
do your songs, MC, perform with them, and do that for hours and hours, live on television.
Live on TV to 300,000 people. Yeah. No pressure. On the very first time that they've ever done this since like 1980 or something. So there was a lot kind of riding on it. And we rehearsed, we had all the charts written, we were prepared for it. And then there was this moment after we had done, so we're playing 2 ad breaks or from ad breaks and playing little 30-second stings, and we'd have the director in the truck going 60 seconds, 45 seconds, give us a 5-second countdown. And after we'd done it a few times, there was this moment in the band of like, we're actually doing this and it sounds awesome. And this vibe that we've got going in RAC Arena, it was, and you just get these goosebumps and go, this is what the 400 hours of work were to get to. Now we need to sustain this for 2 days. And then you get to the Sunday night and you go off air and, you know, we all sat down in the after party and we were all like
we did the thing.
Well done, guys. Yeah. Well done. Like a lot of pressure. And then they booked it again and again. We're doing it again this year as well. So it's amazing. Yeah,
you've really just built on that, and it's been incredible to watch that grow because telethon is so revered in WA. It's something that nearly, if not all businesses will really get behind in some way, shape or form. And it's very unusual because there's nothing like it that I can think of on the East Coast. It's a 48-hour live broadcast. It raises an extraordinary amount of money for a number of different charities. And everyone is really invested in making it the biggest and the best every year. So there is this expectation it's going to be bigger, better, raise more money. So that's exciting for you because you're also being challenged to raise the bar.
That's right. And that's a good way of putting it. I think every time we go into pre-production, which literally starts next week for telethon.
Well, yeah, it's only, 3 months away, 4 months away?
Yeah, that's right. So all of the acts, so I'm also the music director of the broadcast as well. So we have auditions for the general starting in a couple of weeks. All the acts for the WA Music Showcase have been locked in, but all of the house band stuff really starts next week. And it's a lot of work to get to this point. But there's something really amazing, and they talk about the spirit of telethon a lot. And it can mean so many different things. But when you go to these beneficiary breakfasts where you see all of the beneficiaries that are taken, like 270, I think, were there this year, and the stories and where the money really goes, and then I take that back to the band and go, this is what we're doing it for. It's something really special, and we're so privileged to be a part of it because, like you say, there's nothing like it on the planet. And it's been going for so long, and the totals that they raise now they're mind-blowing. But everyone goes in with the anticipation that this will be the biggest total ever.
Yeah.
And it is hard to continually raise the bar, but it's a great challenge as well.
Of course. Well, we're excited to see what you do again this year.
I don't know what we're going to do, but we'll figure it out.
Stand by.
Yeah.
So telethon is a really big one. You do lots of different corporate events. Are there any particular events that you really enjoy doing?
Yeah, I think, telethon is a massive part of that. I think
when I say events, like it could be anything. I've seen you host huge performances. There was the 40-year anniversary for
the Australia Tour.
America's Cup. Yeah, America's Cup.
Yeah, there are a few, and they pop up. I mean, it's funny you mentioned that one because that's definitely maybe 15 years ago I would have seen a big concert, and we saw it down in Margaret River, and I saw an MC and I saw them do their thing, and they went up and they did their thing, and I thought what a great gig.
Yeah,
I would love to have that gig
to host the gig.
Gig, but I also had no idea how I go from being here to there. I didn't know the steps involved. I then started working in radio and then had relationships with promoters, and I would go to events or I would see them in interviews, and then you build all of these relationships that you never know where they go. Right. And then down the track 15 years later, I got a call 3 years ago and they said, do you want to host the Kings Park concert series for every event at Kings Park? And
you just rattle off some of the names here because we are
ridiculous.
Talking about the creme de la creme.
It's Sting, Tom Jones,
I saw Crowded House.
Yeah, Crowded House is in there. Roxette is coming. It's honestly the biggest stars.
They're all the gigs I want to go to, so I'm looking forward to seeing you.
Yeah, and they're so great.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, the third year that I've hosted these now. And it's great because it was a gig I really wanted. I didn't know how to get.
And you're paid to be there on stage,
I know.
Get up and MC. Like that's to me that's living the dream.
It's amazing. And there are these moments where, James Taylor was the last one, and when I finished my role at 8:30, he goes on at 8:45 or something. Some superstars want an intro, some don't. It's completely different. It's very flexible on the day. You need to be able to change very quickly and figure it out. But I sat side of stage and watched James Taylor and Steve Gadd on drums, and I went, that's one of those stop, Blake, and take in this moment. 5,000 people watching, you're 5 meters away, just hearing, Fire and Rain, and you just go, holy crap.
In Kings Park, which is, if you've not had the experience, you should absolutely go because it's such a beautiful venue.
It really is. It's so lucky. Yeah. And I love those gigs so much. But it's funny, there's this philosophy of you just start working on the goal and you can see an idea of what that is, but no real path to get there.
Yeah.
And I think as long as you make decisions that are in reference to where you want that goal to be, invariably I find you do end up there. Sometimes it takes a really long time, but you figure it out. Like it all kind of makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't have, you've got to visualize it. You don't necessarily have the skills, but if you kind of, you're pointed in the right direction at least, your experience, which we haven't even touched on, your, many years working in radio, that provides lots and lots of opportunities to be a voice to people. So you're recognizable, even if people don't know who you are.
Which I love. I love that part of it.
Yeah. So, but people, when you get on stage, you go, oh, that's the guy from the radio.
Yeah,
I know who he is.
Yeah.
And so you're comfortable and familiar, and you're sort of embedded in people's lives.
And it was funny because another kind of full circle moment when I was at uni and I was just starting to do broadcasting before I ever worked. No, I was. It was first year uni. We were doing film, and I needed to find, part of one of the assignments was to find someone in the public eye, have an interview about what they did, something like that. And so I chose Dean Clares, who was working on 96 FM at that point, I'm fairly sure, and radio presenter. Claresy. Yeah, Clares. And so I was so nervous, and I gave him a call, and I went down and did this, I'm sure, terrible interview in the station. And now 20 years later, Dean is one of the artists that we represent at Williams Creative. And you're like,
oh,
and
that feels nice.
I don't think I've ever told him that story, to be honest, but he was, I called him, I went down, he was so gracious with his time, lovely man. And then you fast forward and you go, well, here we are in this whole different part of the industry now, and I'm booking work for you. And it's just this lovely moment. But yeah, radio was not something I'd ever thought I'd fall into, but I just fell in love with the medium. I loved the gig. I had so many great friends through radio, and we hosted The Scene, which is our WA music show, on 94 for 300 episodes, 300 weeks, 5 and something years. And it was at that time the only show nationally on commercial radio that was playing local West Australian artists, local artists on commercial radio.
Yeah.
It was an incredible feat. And I can't imagine there'd be too many shows that would beat that record, to be honest.
I don't imagine it would do. And that is one of many reasons why you're awarded the Entrepreneurial Award in the 40 under 40 category for the arts, because how much you do to really advocate for local music, let alone what you put on yourself. There was so congratulations. That was a very big achievement.
And that was
well deserved.
Well, that was definitely one of those, in 10 years' time, I wonder if I could get that award.
Yeah.
And again, you work towards it, not in a very direct way, but you go, I do see that being like it slowly gets into focus a little bit more.
Absolutely.
As you make your way through. But yeah, I think I love West Australian music genuinely.
Yes.
And so when I talk about it and promote it, it comes from a place of just like, I want everyone to know about this so deeply. And I think about the great moments I've had paying $10 to watch an original artist and going, that's one of the greatest songs I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And there's 9 people here. Like, this should be different. This person should be a superstar. Yeah. And so, it was lovely to get that award, and that kind of culminated in a few years ago, me changing a little bit when COVID was happening and there wasn't really any work at all, and I wanted to do something for our industry. And so I got a spot on the board of the EIA, the Event Industry Association, on the board, ended up becoming the chair of the board. And our job was to advocate to government about what was happening day to day in the industry and going, these grants that you're releasing are not working and here's why. And going through our members and going, are you getting it? What needs to change? And taking that information to government and lobbying and getting grants changed to make them available for people in the music industry, in the events industry. And so that part of the award was definitely for that stuff as well.
I didn't realize that was a specific element of the award, because I know a number of recipients of the grants that have it has been the difference between them being able to do an event or not.
100%.
And these are like incredibly talented, amazing people, but they're, you don't have the funds to just pull these ideas off.
No.
And there is money out there from the government organisations that want to fund people, and they not necessarily get it in the hands of the right people. So it feels really lovely to know that you in some way have been connected with some of these talented people that I know that are getting these grants.
Well, thank you. And I mean, this was through the COVID time. And so there were like financial relief grants, and these ones I felt really strongly for. Like, these were the difference between somebody closing their doors or keeping them to the end of the year to try and get the summer income. And it was, it was really good because the ministers did listen, and we did change things. Like, for example, you would have a $20,000 grant. I'm fairly sure that's what it was, but you had to have a reduction in a certain amount of percentage of overall turnover. And we'd go back and go, that threshold is too much. You need to lower that threshold. If you lowered that threshold, 30% more people are going to get this grant. Of the 30%, this is the industries they work in, this is who they are, this is what they do, this is what they bring to the industry as a whole. And so explaining that stuff in numbers and data-driven things is what the government needs to know, because they don't work in events. We don't even have an event minister.
No.
And so we kind of end up with small business and sort of with arts, but not really a home either way. And so, a big part of the EIA, and Tim Kennedy, the outgoing chair, did a massive amount of work on there. Then I picked it up and we kind of ran with it. But it was nice to know that when they changed it and we saw people getting grants, that you're like, awesome.
Yeah.
And people would call me and go, I was going to have to shut down.
Oh, wow.
And now they didn't, and they got through, and you hope that, that really helped people.
Yeah. And, as someone who's run his own business for a long time, you know what that's like, that financial lifeline between having to go back and do something that you don't want to do, let alone not being too scared to earn any money or fire people because you don't have any income. So we've discussed a few really incredible highlights, but I did want to ask you if you had any specific greatest achievements that have sort of come to your mind. covers a lot of ground here, lots of different areas.
Yeah.
Particularly in the events world.
I think my greatest achievement really is the fact that when we started Williams Creative, it became really apparent that I could essentially hire who I wanted.
Yeah.
And I can surround myself with people that I like and that do a good job, but also bring like love and passion to what they do. And we've all worked in shows or worked in gigs where you don't like a stage manager or someone just has a weird vibe in a cast and it just doesn't work. And I'm so proud of the fact that everyone that we represent, that we work with, has been put there for a specific reason. And we get to hire people that I love working with.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes you can make business really complicated, but at the same time, it's also not. It's just about having good people doing a good job.
Yeah.
And for me, if I'm hiring somebody for whatever they're doing, it's just to be consistent and be a good person and don't be a dick, and you will have work forever.
It's such sage business advice. It is a universal law. Don't be a dick. Be nice to work with. Answer your emails on time.
The emails one, I probably should have led with that, to be honest. Yeah. But
overall, that's such an important thing. That's why I love the events industry and put up with lots of different things that not necessarily the best parts of it, but the people, the opportunities to meet people like yourself is what I love about this industry.
100%.
And
there are those accolades and those really big gigs, and they're absolutely amazing, and you feel like euphoric for a few days after them, but also you need your general day-to-day to be inspiring as well.
Yeah.
I think I feel really happy and really lucky that I get to do that every day.
Fantastic. One final note, do you have any tips on anyone wanting to get started working specifically in the events industry?
Yeah, I would say I think reach out. I think people are a lot more generous with their time than what people think they're going to be. And I remember like myself growing up and calling people like Russell Wolf or calling someone and asking a question, and they would sit down and go, yeah, sure, come buy me a coffee and I'll explain things. And I do the exact same thing now. People will call and go, I've got this idea, I don't know how to get there, would you mind? I said, of course, come down, talk. People will absolutely do that.
Yeah.
And I love that people are proactive to do that. And it can be really hard to pick up the phone, call someone you don't know who you know is busy and ask them a cold question.
Yeah.
It's really hard, but I would say just do it.
Yeah.
If you don't want to call, email. If they don't answer, follow up on the email.
Yeah.
Like, things get busy and I don't reply to every email straight away sometimes.
Yeah. You're pretty good, I have to say. You're pretty damn good. It's
there's
very
a lot
high on
in
top
there.
of your skill set list is responsiveness and
I think that's just a really good business thing, to be honest, especially when, from an agency perspective, for example, a client can come and say, I need 3 options. So can you get me 3 options? And then you have to go, well, I think these people are appropriate, ask for the quotes, get them back, combine them all, send them to a client. And so your time is of the essence to really to get stuff happening. So yes, answer your emails is a big part of it. But to be honest, reach out, ask people questions, get inquisitive, go to gigs, ask people questions at gigs. Like I've given so many jobs to people that have called and I've met, and then later down the track I've gone, actually, that person that asked that would be great for this. And then you give them an opportunity.
Exactly, because you sort of remember.
Because they're in the sphere. Yeah,
exactly.
They're working and doing stuff.
Such good advice. And I just think with what you've done now, it's very exciting to see how only less than 1 year in for Williams and the next chapter in your family, lots of exciting things coming in your future. And thank you so much for coming to join me for a champagne chat. It's always lovely to chat.
Also, I've only had like 2 mouthfuls of champagne. We've been talking
very
so much.
rude. And it's the good stuff as always.
I can tell.
Cheers.
Cheers.
That brings us to the end of our final episode of Champagne Chats for the season. If you've enjoyed watching, please do subscribe on your favourite podcast platforms or YouTube. And remember, may the only pain in your life be champagne. Cheers.